included in the recording, then please do just turn your camera off. Otherwise, I'm perfectly happy to see your faces and your reactions like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. Exactly. Thank you for demonstrating, Kasir. So, my friends, my name is, my SCA name is Baroness Sophia the Orange. My real name is Lara Coutinho. Please do keep in contact. I am very excited to continue to network with everyone around the world about how to keep these wonderful skills flowing throughout our community, because just because we're going back someday this year to seeing each other in person and hugging all the hugs, these kinds of skills keep us connected during everything. So let's continue to learn them and share them and find out which ones work best under which crazy circumstances. So I tell you what, the first order of business is I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to bring up my beautiful slides. And I did just put in the Facebook group for this event. I put a link to my slides that's in my Google Drive. And for those of you who did not take the class yesterday, it's pretty easy. You just put a link out there to a Google Drive element, a file that is there, and you can share it just like I did. So here comes the sharing of screen. One of those, and one of these, and one of those. How's that? Oh, we are far ahead. Okay. So now then, let's see, are you in fact seeing the big orange welcome sign?
No, we are seeing your open Zoom meeting.
Oh dear, okay. Right, I shared it wrong then. I'll go share the application instead. Let's try that. How's that? Is that better?
Yes.
Big orange welcome screen. Awesome, super duper. All right, thank you so much for being here, everybody. This is basically why I care about these kinds of skills and where my life has come from that brought me to this place. For Atlantia, I work for Atlantia University as the Deputy for Online Learning, and I have since last June. And also, I'm the Deputy for the Kingdom Web Minister to manage virtual courts. There were three of us that started creating these virtual court things back in, I want to say the first one we did was in September. And then we started adding people to the team and adding people's different skill sets for crazy, cool, beautiful things that they could do. And Marguerite is one of those. And so she's going to show you part two, how to up your game after we're done today. Also, something that I love to do is comedy improv. And so every month, I've been producing a live stream show for fundraising with my comedy geeks, and this has allowed me regular practice to do a lot of things on live streaming, and I've learned a lot from that. So if you can find something to do with your friends that is along the lines of what you would do with an SCA group and get some practice in, that is a very good way of learning the skills better and polishing. And also in my day job, 9 to 5, well, not just 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and some weekends, I work as a certified knowledge manager for the U.S. military in the unclassified information sharing program. And I've been doing that for 10 years. And so through all the changes of technology in my job, I've been helping people all around the world learn how to use collaboration tools online. And last year, yes, when March hit, my job exploded and we got about 400 times the amount of requests that we normally do. So I've been through the ringer on many, many, many tools, and I've been able to see which ones apply to SCA life, especially those that look a lot like theater. That's where my personal love is. And so I've been able to sort of pick out those things from my day job, see where they apply, and then also go find people who are smarter than me in those particular areas and hopefully work together. So there are never-ending paths of learning here. And I hope everybody will find at least a couple of paths, try them out, and learn some more, and you'll apply it, I guarantee you, in your SCA life and elsewhere. And if I could get my thing to change. Here we go. So this is part one. This is what I'm doing. I'm doing your entry level training, setting up Zoom to live stream somewhere. And we're going to touch on briefly live streaming to Facebook because it's so easy. They give us lots of easy buttons. And then we're going to talk about live streaming to YouTube, which has proved to be a super handy thing that will allow most SCA activities to do what they need to do. And then part two by my good friend Marguerite will cover what you can create with Zoom using advanced stuff when you have multiple cameras, additional software, additional hardware, and additional brain power, which she will give you in hour number two. Yeah, come on, Mr. Slide. There we go. These are links to the copies of the slides and also my magnum opus for the last few months. The second slide here is Atlantia Virtual Court Procedure and Checklist. This is something that came through a lot of courts. It is a checklist and also a procedure that has served me well, but it's not the end all be all. Please try it out. Please send me feedback on how it worked for you. And what I'd really, really love to see is that kind of document have many variations based on different people's experiences. I found that there are so many variables that there is no one true way to produce a court. There are threads of common things that work for most of our needs, but there will be lots of differences. You know how every royal and baronage has a different way that they like to do their courts. That translates into technology. So there will be completely unique ways with these threads of commonality. So I'm going to try to hit on those common things that everyone will be able to make use of. And then please do make it your own. This procedure is one that has worked for us, and it's, you know, tweaked every time. By the way, it does include your kind of regular, basic, simple court, as well as a baronial investiture, as well as peerages, both surprise and not surprise. It is amazing to me how it changes the planning structure depending on if you have a surprise peerage or not, whether you have multiple peerages or not, and if you have a baronial investiture. Baronial investiture expands the complexity by another two couples, and there's a lot of work to do. So what this checklist allows you to do is at least go through everything that's going to be possibly applicable, and then you can pick and choose which pieces of that is going to apply to your particular event. And then I guarantee you the next time you do it, it'll be different too. So we're going to focus on those common pieces. Now, I'm not going to talk about this procedure and checklist anymore. I want you to look at it. In fact, let's just take this. Let's see if I can take, no, I can't really edit it, sorry. If you go to the Facebook group for this event and click the link, download my slides, then you'll see these and you can multitask or later on take a look at these. The one thing I'll say before I move on is rehearsal. The word rehearsal may seem weird to a lot of Scadians, especially when you're talking about court, because we're not used to rehearsing a court. It is critical that you rehearse with the technology you're going to use. And if you have theater folks in your group, and there will be some because they're scattered all around the world. If you have theater folks, put it in terms of Tech Week. You always need to review and test and prove that your technology works in the way you expect it to before you go live. And if you don't do that, you are simply living in a world of risk that a lot of people are okay with, but I would not recommend. So please do give that a shot. All right, moving on. These next two are ones I'm going to ask you to go look at yourselves. I picked these out as very, very simple, a very simple court and an example of a very complex court. And they're really at different ends of the spectrum with lots of options in between. The simple one there was done in one room with one computer, one camera, and there were no extra elements of the court. It was the king and queen giving out some nice awards and talking to people through the ether. And there was a baron who was there, and there was an extra song. There was one recording of a song that was included in there, but otherwise it was as simple as it gets. The complex Atlantia Royal Court was the one that almost killed me on March 27th. That one had a baronial investiture for the glorious barony of Stierbach. And so we had a little bit of the outgoing baronage and the incoming baronage. The incoming baronage had their own court, plus there were multiple peerages, some of which were surprised, some of which weren't, and there were like 3 different locations. So that was as complex as we've done so far, and I'm sure they're going to find ways to make it harder along the way. So that's where we're at right now, but that's a really good example of a very complex court. Now we're going to take a look at the technology. Zoom is the most common thing. It is not the only thing you can use to live stream. It's just most common, so that's why I'm sticking with that, trying to keep things as simple as possible for this intro level training. You do need a paid account. I do recommend just go ahead and spend the money on it. I have been spending $15 a month on Zoom since 2015, and I have found it absolutely worth the penny, worth every penny every time. So I highly recommend it. You will need the desktop application instead of just relying on the browser, and you will need to be the host role instead of a co-host. Now then, I'm gonna move around the little visuals here. On the left-hand side, you see my cat serving as a demonstration. Nice of him to sit still for a little while. There are a few settings that I'm going to recommend. First of all, for all participants, I'm going to recommend hide non-video participants so you don't get the little name sitting up there that says Sophia the Orange, big black box, white name. It's just annoying. And the way you do that is go down to your lower left corner to the Start Video button, and there's a little up arrow that expands a pop-up menu under which you will find video settings. And in video settings, there's a lot of fun to be had, but you're going to have to scroll down and find the option that says hide non-video participants. There is another thing that makes this possible, and I think it's one of the coolest aha moments I ever had in this process. You can take a bunch of people in Zoom, have
Is it just
them all
muted?
use this setting, turn off their video. I'm so sorry, what?
Okay. I didn't know if it was me or if it was you that froze.
Oh, I might have frozen for a moment. It happens.
Yeah.
She
Okay,
froze
can you
for me.
hear me? Have I unfrozen yet, Tina?
Yes.
Okay, super, thanks. So the mimicking of walking into court by turning off and on your video as an individual user is useful. Instead of having somebody monitor it and turn on and off things for people, let them do it themselves. Just tell them ahead of time. Y'all are here as part of a court experience, so turn on and off your audio and video just like you would walk in and out of court. That works really well. People get that. Alrighty, so that is one setting that I highly recommend. Another one is the difference between pin and spotlight. You can see here I've got my cat and my friend Marvin being the demonstrators here in the upper right corner of my cat. You see this little button here. And I actually have it wrong in my slides. It says upper left. It's actually the upper right corner. You may have seen this button before. It's the little 3 dots. So go to the face of the person you're looking for, and then look for the 3-dot menu. It should be upper right corner. This little 3-dot button pops down this extra menu, and you can rename. You can change the role. You can put them in the waiting room. You can also use the pin and the spotlight. Pin is for yourself. So if I want to pin Tina into this big class, then she'll take the majority of the screen and all the rest of us will be those tiny boxes up at the top. If you spotlight, that's doing the same thing but for everyone. So you can choose whether you're going to do it just for yourself or for everyone. If you're running a court, usually we spotlight the royalty or the baronage, and then everybody else can either stay there or turn off their videos. Now this next one, setting up Zoom to live stream. This is a setting on Zoom. We're about to get into the point where it's a little hard to tell where I'm showing these buttons coming from. Right now, we're focused on Zoom. These are settings coming from the Zoom software. So this part is in your account. When you log into zoom.us, you'll have your own account. And the menu on the left-hand side here, where it says settings at the bottom, that is in your account on the left-hand side of the screen. Click settings, you'll have a mountain of settings, or should I say a waterfall, a long list of beautiful settings that you can play with. And I highly, highly recommend using the little table of contents on the left-hand side, this little tiny set of options here where it says security, schedule meeting, in meeting basic, in meeting advanced. Those are little tags that will scroll you down to the right place further down in the long list of settings. So click in meeting advanced. That'll take you down to the section you need. And you'll see this option, allow live streaming of meetings. You're going to need to check this and check all of those that you want to use. Facebook, Workplace by Facebook, if you have it, but I don't really think most Scadians are going to be using that. And then YouTube and custom live streaming service. So this is where you activate the setting on your Zoom account to allow it to happen. If you're setting up a brand new Zoom account for your SCA group, you're going to need to do this, but you just set it once and walk away, and you've achieved something that day and feel good about yourself. So that's one thing to do there. Now, the easy button is for Facebook. It's super cool and fine to go ahead and use Facebook. And if your group agrees that everybody has a Facebook account and it's fine, and you're just going to use Facebook, go ahead. The handicap is that you have to have a Facebook account to see what's being streamed. Even if it's public, you still have to log in. So as an example, in my little comedy improv troupe, the husband of one of our players refuses to get on Facebook. He just doesn't want to do it. And that's great. But that meant that she had to go log in as herself on the computer in the living room while she went into her study to go do the live stream show with us. So it was a little awkward that he just didn't have a Facebook account and couldn't watch the show. That's cool. It works if everybody's on Facebook. It doesn't work if they're not. And if you're doing something public for the SCA, it's probably a better idea to not require people to have an account on Facebook. It's a super big popular platform, and it's not perfect, and it's not 100%. So this is an easy button, however, especially if you want to do something small and doesn't need to be super public. All you do is you go to the Facebook option on Zoom, and in your Facebook feed, there will be a very easy, quick to find button that says live stream. You give it a name, and then this section on the right-hand side where it says live producer, this will pop up. And you see, I have it set to only me. That's because I was doing a little demo to get the screenshots. But this is where you make it public or just friends. And you put in a title and a description and say what kind of a thing you're doing and hit go live at the bottom. This is the super crazy simple way of doing it. And you might try it for practice. You might just do it there with, a little puppet friend and say hello, I am a demonstration. The end. You might do something like that just to try it out. In fact, I have a lot of those out there on the internet right now. Alrighty, so let's up our game and go to YouTube. This is where it starts to get a little tiny bit confusing, or at least it was for me when I was first learning it. So do not worry about feeling overwhelmed at this point in time. Most people don't do this stuff in their regular everyday lives, and we sure as heck didn't do very much of it before the pandemic made the SCA go entirely virtual. So what you're going to do is you're going to have your Zoom account all set up and ready to go. You go into YouTube, and on your own YouTube account, there will be an option to go live or update or upload a video. And that's my number one picture right here in the center, top center. If you see my little face, right next to that is this little camera icon. And this is where you start. So usually people can find YouTube. If there's anybody who can't find their own personal YouTube account, let me know. Generally speaking, you log into your Gmail and hit your little face, and you'll see all sorts of options. The grid icon gives you options to all sorts of applications, and then this camera icon brings you to YouTube. So once you're here, go live is the option we're talking about today. Ooh, we have a point from Marguerite. Go right ahead, darling.
Absolutely. Just to let everyone know, if you are planning to stream through YouTube, they require you to set streaming up for live streaming in advance. So this is not something that you want to do day of. Give yourself some time. There's at least a 24-hour approval period before they will let you live stream. So just make sure that you've taken the time in advance to go ahead and do this and practice with it, so you're not trying to do it the night before.
Great point. 24 hours ahead of time before your actual stream needs to go live. That also enforces your planning and rehearsing and doing things in advance, which you don't always, haven't always had to do. So good point. Thank you, Marguerite. So here under Go Live, you're going to see some settings. I'm sorry, I should say the first step after that is schedule stream. The blue button here is in the upper right corner, and that's number 2. The third section here shows you all those settings. Give it a title. You're going to choose whether it's going to be public or private. Add your description, and these are the kinds of things that are going to allow you to be found, especially by random Scadians that are like, "Where's the court? I don't know. It was Atlantia something." This is going to help them to find Atlantia something blah blah court. So go ahead and don't skimp on the description of the title. Upload custom thumbnail. This is super handy. Even if you have just the most basic kind of graphic to represent your group or whoever is doing the performing, upload the custom thumbnail. This is your place to put the graphic that represents it. If you leave it blank, it just has a gray screen with a little gray lightning bolt on it, and it's not bad, but it's not going to help at all. This bottom one that says, yes, it's made for kids, or no, it's not made for kids, as tempting as it is to say that everything in the SCA is kid-friendly, this is a completely different thing. This is a piece of marketing that YouTube makes to market straight to kids. So unless what you're doing is 100% made just for kids, like a cute little puppet show, then just say, no, it's not made for kids. It's made for everyone else in the whole rest of the world. Because otherwise you're going to be right there with Peppa the Pig and all sorts of cute things that are wonderful, but not really what you're intending to do. And then once you hit create stream, you're going to have your stream created, and we're going to check some additional settings for that. Okay, so I'm going to show you those additional settings later when we do the live demo. So here are, what's this? This is where we're jumping back to Zoom. You remember how I said at first we're looking at Zoom settings, and then we looked at YouTube settings. Now we're going back to Zoom. Okay, is there anybody lost with that? All right, super, great, thanks. So in Zoom, I've blown this up a lot. In Zoom, in the lower center of your screen when you are a host, you see this little more button. And the More button will pop up this menu that says live on Facebook, live on Workplace by Facebook, live on YouTube, live on custom streaming service. And you can go straight to live on Facebook. We discussed that already. I would not suggest go live on YouTube. You can, but that goes straight to your own personal YouTube account. This last one, live on custom live streaming service, gives you options that I highly recommend. Stick with this one because it'll give you all the options you need. Those options are in block number 3 right here. It says streaming URL. This is a field you're going to need. Streaming key. Key is just a password. So streaming key is just a password that is provided by YouTube. Live streaming page URL. This is the external link that users will need in order to see your stream. And these are settings that come from YouTube and go into Zoom. So what we're looking at here is the Zoom screenshots. And you're going to get these 3 pieces of information from YouTube to copy and paste into this menu. All right, Tina, what question do you have?
So I believe it's Moria had a question. If you live stream on YouTube, will the video stay there after the meeting is finished?
It sure will. And you have some options with that. It sure will stay there. And you can make it private and you can delete it if you wish. The default is for it to stay there. And the default is for it to stay there. And there's a place where you can set how public you want it to be, public or private. And then if it's private, you can add specific email addresses to it. So to give you an example, here in Atlantia, we have a process that when we produce a YouTube live stream to YouTube that's public, we then afterwards go in and turn it private, and we allow our web minister and our kingdom seneschal a moment to review to see it, just give us a kind of a comfort level, like, is this all really okay to keep up here, or do we need to go back and edit anything? And then they usually give us the green light and say, yeah, go ahead here, just go ahead and make it public. But that is a buffer in time that allows us to, step back and say, is this okay to keep this up there in public? Alrighty, so any questions on that?
Yes, I had a question.
Yes, I don't see your view, but go right ahead.
Sorry, I'm in, hiding.
I'm listening.
So on the live stream, the Zoom meeting to a custom service, the streaming URL, that is what you were talking about. You were set up in advance 24 hours ago on YouTube. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
So once you set that up in advance, will it give it that information to you immediately, or it'll populate that 24 hours later?
No, it'll give it to you immediately. And I'm about to show you in the next slide where to go find that. You can copy and paste it in.
All right, cool.
Yeah, go ahead, Marguerite.
If I can chime in on, so the 24 hours is a one-time thing to set up your account for live streaming. So you don't have to do it 24 hours in advance every time. It's just as you're getting your account ready to live stream, don't do it the night before. It's something that you're going to need a little bit of time for YouTube to approve your account for live streaming first.
So let's give them an example. So we've been using the virtual Atlantia YouTube account since last September for virtual accounts. But this weekend, we started up a new one for the heralds and scribes. They started up their own in order to supplement what was going on for Crown Tournament. And they put up a beautiful heraldic tournament tree for live streaming as the tournament went on yesterday. So they had to have a separate YouTube account. So that was something that had to be prepared ahead of time and given that 24-hour notice. So that's an example of how a new one might come up in your lives that you need to create a new YouTube account for it, or your group may not have one yet at all. But it doesn't mean every single time. So that's a super question and something really good to consider. So while we're stopped for a second, anybody have any questions about that? Okay, super. Excellent. Thank you guys. Brilliant. All right, so let's go take a look at YouTube and dig into more complex screenshots. So what I have is a screenshot on the left from Zoom. The screenshot on the right is from YouTube. So this white one on the left, you just saw that in the previous slide. I've got slots number 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to show you on your YouTube screen where to get that information. And then you're going to copy and paste it from the black back to the white. So number 1, down here, it's very hard to see on the screenshot, but I'll show you on the live demo. It's the stream URL. It's right down here in the middle. If you see where my cursor is dancing about next to the number 1, that's where you get it. The second one is the streaming key. Again, that's just a password, but you put it here in the slot number 2. You get it from slot number 2. Copy, paste it over to the left. And then the live streaming page URL is, I'm going to move this around. Come on. There we go. Over in the upper right corner where I have my number 3, this little arrow that looks like it's leaping out of the page, this little guy right here is going to give you your external URL. The live streaming page URL, that is also the one you're going to publish in various places for people to see. This is where you get the show. All right, so this is the key piece that I had to learn. Our Kingdom Web Minister taught me this piece, and it is the key for making Zoom talk to YouTube and back again. So anybody have any questions on this? This is kind of the meat of what you need to know. Brilliant, brilliant. You guys are keeping up. I love it. All right, a couple things about your YouTube account. The way we've done it with Atlantia is I have my own little personal YouTube Gmail account, and then our web minister set up an account called Virtual Atlantia. And then he gave my account access to it. So I did not create it. He gave me access to that. And so when I log into my own Gmail account, you see my little picture up there. My email is orangesophie@gmail.com. I have an option here to say switch account. So I log in first to mine, I hit switch account, and then I have these options. For there's me, Laura Coutinho, and then Virtual Atlantia is an option for me to log into. That also worked with the Heralds and Scribes one. I logged into my own account, and then I was granted access to the Heralds and Scribes so that I could watch that happen. Alrighty, so that's just switching. And here we go to the live demo. Alrighty, so I am going to stop my sharing. And as I get that ready, let's see if anybody has any questions. You guys are tracking very well. Alrighty, so what we're gonna do is, give me just a second, and we are gonna start from the super duper very beginning. Super duper very beginning in terms of setting yourself up. Okay, sharing screen again. And here's my email. All right, this should look familiar. Not like it's not your email. I mean, it's not that familiar, but this is familiar in terms of anybody who's been on Gmail before. And by the way, if you are not a Gmail or Google user, I recommend just making up an account. Keep it as just for this purpose, if that's the only thing you need it for. But go ahead and use it. You do not have to share your personal information with Google. You're just sharing what you need to get the job done for this particular thing. So here's all my lovely emails, and I'm going to my little face in the upper right corner. See my little face? And then the grid icon gives you all the applications. We're going to bounce over here to YouTube. You guys are going to see all the fun things that I like to see on YouTube. NFL reporters getting hit. Oh, that's ridiculous. Oh, terrible. Alrighty. Does this little icon here that says create look familiar? Hopefully it does. This little guy, and then this looks familiar from one of my slides. We want to go live. It's slow, but it's coming.
Just as a heads up, you're on the Kingdom account right now.
Well, look at that. Thank you. Let's go back and fix that. How did that happen?
I think, yeah, just right there. You can do that in the YouTube page.
Yeah, let's make it a learning moment. Thank you for catching that. All right, so the icon in the upper right-hand corner that I did not catch says Virtual Atlantia. So let's go click back and say switch account. Switch account back to mine. All right. Poof, there it is. And there's the coolest thing I saw last on YouTube. Crown Tournament, that was yesterday. Marguerite's going to tell you all about that. It's a brilliant, brilliant thing that happened. So, create icon, go live. And let's use my account to demonstrate instead of the Kingdom's. There we are. All right, we have no upcoming streams. Let's start one. Schedule stream. Does this button look familiar? The location of it was not really clear in my slides, but hopefully you see it now. So this is schedule stream. We're gonna not use the previous settings from my last improv show. We're gonna create a new one. Here we go. Title stream demo for Kaid. How to be awesome. There we go. The Kingdom of Kaid is awesome. Learn how to be like Kaid. I gotta spell Kaid, it's really hard. All right, and then your dates and times. Let's say we're gonna do this next Saturday, and we're gonna do it at 1:00 p.m. And if I had a thumbnail for Kaid, that would be amazing. Wow. Okay, here's a Meridies. We're just going to pretend that Meridies is the same thing as Kaid. How's that? So down at the bottom, no, it's not made for kids. And here we go. Create stream will give us our menu. There we go. Now this is going to spin in the upper right corner. You can go ahead and ignore that. Don't worry about it at all. But the things you're going to want to know are that stream URL down here on the left. This puppy right here. This is your stream URL. That is going to go into Zoom. Your stream key right here. This is the number 2 thing going into Zoom. And then over here in the upper right corner, this little arrow that leaps out of the page, this gives you here your video link. Copy that. This is your external link that goes out into the world. It also goes into Zoom. So those are the 3 pieces of data you're going to need from here, from YouTube, to put into Zoom. Now, I got to tell you, it is a little hard for me to show you the Zoom. It's a little hard for me to show you the Zoom while I'm in a Zoom. So I'm going to ask you to go back to my slides. That's the real easy part. Because in your Zoom, you'll have a button that says more. That'll pop up the live stream options. You click that and the menu comes up looking for those 3 pieces of data. And this is where those 3 pieces of data come from. So I'm going to take a breath here, and we're at 12:45. I have some more details I can go into, and I've got a ton of stuff I can tell you about closed captioning. But I would like to see how you guys are feeling with understanding the slides and how to get started, and also make sure you understand the importance of rehearsal. I cannot stress that enough.
Get ready for more.
Yeah, so no questions. Everybody's enjoying this part. We've all internalized it. Nobody's falling behind. Okay, super. Handful of things on this screen that are going to be more details So this is just like more stuff that you can forget and come back to later. This is not part of the foundation of your learning. Enable auto start and stop. That's going to be helpful. I highly recommend that. These are toggle switches. You just toggle it on, enable. What this should do, as long as everything's working correctly, is as soon as you start your live stream on Zoom, it will automatically start here on YouTube. If you don't have this set, if you thought you had it set and you forgot and you don't remember whether you set it or not, go back here and check. Because what will happen if it's not set, if it's not acting correctly, if it's misbehaving, is there will be a little button in the upper right corner here next to your face somewhere, and that little button will say start stream. And that's YouTube starting the stream. So both pieces of software need to do it. You start it on Zoom and then start the YouTube. And it should go automatically if you have this little toggle guy set. And if it doesn't, that's okay. Go right back here and check for that button to pop up that says start stream. Now, I do highly recommend that you start on Zoom first, get it going. And one thing we like to do is start with some music. And Marguerite has done a great thing in giving us little videos that are just one card that says, Atlanta Court, starting soon. And well, it doesn't say that in that silly voice. I mean, it says it like a card, right? And then there's music behind it. So that allows us some seconds to come in at the moment that it's like in the middle of the music and let it just be a fade in kind of a thing. And then once the music's playing, start the Zoom live stream, start the YouTube live stream, and you don't have like a king waiting to start talking and say, like, do I talk yet? Do I talk yet? Do I talk yet? You know, you don't want that. You want them to be relaxed. And so you start with music, start all the streams, and take a deep breath, and then someone tell the king, you can start talking now. And then the same goes for the second option here, enable auto stop. That's for when you stop Zoom, you're done with the live stream, it should pop off here on YouTube as well, stopping. If it doesn't work, you go in here and you hit the button that says stop stream. Okay, enable DVR, that is the recording. So if you choose to not have it recorded live on at the same time, then you can switch that off. I find it much more handy to just always keep that on and then choose to make the thing private after you're done if you want. This one, actually, I have no idea what this does. 360 video, I don't know. I mean, maybe Marguerite does, but I don't know this one. And the delay, I've never used this. You know, you can try it if you want to. I've just never used it. I want it to go when I want it to go. Unlist live replay once stream ends. This is an automatic thing. I don't trust it. I sometimes when I want to make sure something is either public or private, I just want to do it myself, and I don't want to see if this little toggle switch actually works. I've come to just be nervous about some things, and whether or not a piece of content is public or private, that's a big deal. So I usually just set this to be public or private afterwards, however that works. Now let's talk for just a second about closed captioning. You can click this little guy here and hit closed captions. And with YouTube, these closed captions are processed after the video is finished. It's not live. It is not the kind of thing that's going to help those that are hard of hearing actually follow what's happening in the moment. However, you do have that service on Zoom. It's happened, it was sometime in the last month, they finally went live with it, where they took this service that used to be part of their paid service and they brought it down into their paid accounts at the lowest level. This was amazing. I'm so glad they did this because it gives you a great option for free closed captioning. I think it's very important because there are so many people out there in the world that love the SCA that have a wide variety of different abilities. They may be hard of hearing or they can't hear. Maybe their eyes are not as good. There's a million reasons why somebody would want that kind of help. So closed captioning through Zoom has been pretty good in that it happens instantly as people are talking, and it goes straight through when you're live streaming. YouTube here is a delayed closed captioning service. It's also okay. Now, the quality of translation between the audio and the words coming out of your mouth and the words that show up under the screen, that's something we can all argue about. Sometimes it's so bad it's funny, and sometimes if it's so bad it's funny, it's distracting, and it'll distract from what's going on in the video. It is such a personal choice. I recommend using it, but there will be a time when sometimes the language you're using in the SCA is so different from the regular American English speech that the software is just not going to get it, and things will be super funny. Hopefully people will keep a sense of humor. However, you're going to have to just really try it and see if it's so ridiculous it's distracting and you want to stop it, or if it's enough usefulness to keep it on. I think it's great to have everything you can out there to help, but warning, it might be distracting. Also, I'm a big fan of Silent Heralds, big fan, because not only do they have the sign language going on this is the only thing I know, this is sign language. Oh, and I know thank you. So they have their language with their hands, and they also have expressions, and they also mouth along with what's happening in the video. So their expressions and they're like vivat, that kind of thing really still helps people along, even if they are not proficient at sign language. So there's a whole lot that a Silent Herald can bring to your live stream experience, and I am very much a big fan. We have two folks, three now, I think, that have been working with us here in Atlanta, and they're amazing. You can always, for any kind of help with the Silent Heralds, reach out to the Society Silent Herald lead. I forget what her official title is other than Silent Herald for SCA Inc. And that's Suzanne de la Ferte. And she's a wonderful lady. She lives here in Atlanta, has helped us out a lot. We also have our own Kingdom Silent Herald and a couple other folks that are also silent heralding. And our Kingdom Herald has been helping us to organize them and keep them connected and involved. So you can always go to your Kingdom level folks, and also the SCA Inc. Suzanne is amazing. So I highly recommend making use of these folks whenever you're doing something like this. Okay, so I tell you what, I am coming towards the end. We've got 6 minutes left. Any questions so far? I can dive into details, and I would love to know where you guys want to go from here. All right, Kassir, did you have something?
Yeah, so yesterday when they were doing the tournament, they had the tournament tree in like a little side thing. Could they do that with the signed heraldry, or with the signed?
That has been my dream since September, and we're getting close to that.
Yeah.
It requires OBS, which is what Marguerite's going to teach us in the next hour.
Okay.
So I've been trying to get time to learn OBS, and with the process of learning more every court that we do, we're getting to the point where we'll be able to make that happen and bring all the stuff we've done with OBS into that, and then get the Silent Herald to be a smaller box in the corner rather than two equal boxes.
Exactly.
I understand that that's a visual thing that's awkward. And I would choose every time to put the Silent Herald in there as two equal boxes if that's all I can do. And I absolutely believe that it is doable. We just haven't figured it out yet, how to get the OBS software to sync with the rest of what we have and get the Silent Herald up there in a corner. We're working on that. Absolutely.
So
I'm going to show you some good stuff next hour.
there was a question from Rosalind, a couple now. One was, how are the cards shared? You were talking about the card that said live.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. There are a number of ways to do that. One can be just a graphic where in Zoom, like this, you use the share screen option to share a graphic that you have up on your screen. Another one is to make it a video, and this actually has worked out better for us, to make a video with background music, and for that you need video editing software. I use Filmora. Everybody has a different kind that they like. I'm sure Marguerite's going to tell you her favorite. And making a little video, like a minute long video that has the graphic in it, it says, welcome to Atlantia, court about to start. And then some pretty music behind it, like from your Kingdom Bards or some, bards from that barony or something like that. That's all great stuff. You got to mush it together in actual video processing software. But then you share it from Zoom just using the share screen option. In fact, I can't really show you how it is right now, but if you use the share screen button, there are options under basic and advanced where you can share a video. Nope, I didn't mean to actually share there. So I don't really have time to show you now, but that is what you would do. Does that answer your question? Yes, hopefully.
Sorry, trying to unmute. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Rosalind. Hey, that's a great question. Really awesome. Okay.
She also had a second question. One you probably won't know the answer to is how many people are assisting in running Kaid Court? So you probably don't know that answer. And do you recommend a certain number running different pieces? So for the Kaid Court, I don't even know how many people are doing it. I do know that there are several, but
I'm going to tell you what I think works. Sure.
I'll get him some of this too.
Marguerite will have her own input on that. My recommendation is have somebody who is the lead Zoom manager, have somebody as a backup so that no matter what happens, if electricity goes out, if internet goes out, or if they have a family emergency and their kid needs to go to the ER, I mean, any number of crazy things can happen because Murphy is king. I'm looking straight into the camera. Murphy's Law is king. Have a backup. Have a backup. It's very important. So a lead Zoom and a backup, and then additionally, a person that will handle the communications and planning ahead of time. That could be one of these two people, but it's great if it's a third, because then you've got one person who's like pushing and organizing all of the information, the contacts, who's going to do what. That might be your event seneschal. It might be somebody else, but those three I think are the best balance you get for technology, backup, and then organization. And go for it, Marguerite.
I'm going to add at least one more person. Simplest form is that they are in the room with, if we're talking about a court, with their majesties or their excellencies, and turning the camera on and off and keeping an eye on chat. Having a physical person in the room, and yes, COVID is a thing and makes it hard, but that making it so that the people who are on screen don't have to worry about the technical of that, and they can just focus on communicating what they need to communicate is essential. And we'll talk about how that person can level up what's going on, but even simple form, just someone to mute, unmute microphones, turn things on and off, and look at chat so that if things are broken, you can say, hey, stop for a second. It's really good.
Exactly. And then one more thing with all of that. So you've got those three people and a person in the room. Having some way for those people to talk in a backstage communication kind of way is really helpful. I personally prefer just using my phone and regular SMS chat. That's what I prefer. Some people have other ways. Go be creative with that, but make sure you have one, some way that you're all talking to each other to say, like, is it going live? Does it look good? And you can all talk backstage. Okay, we're at 1 o'clock. Any more questions that we want to squeeze in? Otherwise, we're going to transform ourselves into a Marguerite class. Any other questions? All right, you guys are awesome. Please keep in touch. I'm going to just make sure you know Sophia the Orange. Just Google it. Sophia the Orange, and there's a very nice lady that's in a TV show, Orange is the New Black. That's not me. I'm sure you can tell though. So Sophia the Orange SCA usually gets you to all my stuff, and my webpage is where you can get all sorts of wonderful extra things. And now I got to tell you, when I met Marguerite, I was just thrilled that there was another theater person I could work with who understood the value of rehearsal, practice, tech week. She understood that, but also she had this amazing perspective on technology because she works with it every day in her day job. And she knew how to take these things together and then apply it to SCA life. And she brought all sorts of amazing new things into my life that I have learned a lot from. So I speak with great joy when I introduce to you this amazing woman, Marguerite, who has done great things for us. And she's going to show you how to up your game. After you've learned this foundational stuff in part 1, you're going to take part 2 and do beautiful things. And she's going to show you how. So thank you, everybody. Let's make sure the recording stopped for me, and then we just have a different one for